Hello again, my name is Rodney Reynolds and welcome to another video review. Today I'll be looking at the Thermaltake AquariusII liquid cooling system. This package includes everything you're going to need to get a water cooling rig installed inside of your system, and the manual that is included in this is fantastic. Makes it very easy to install this whole system in no time at all. Now, let me just go through what is included in this particular package. Right here we have a copper water block. This gets installed on top of your CPU. You have a pump, a backup reservoir, a copper radiator and a fan, and a whole length of tubing here. And this tubing gets cut into different lengths depending on where you have all this laid out inside of your case. Now once you cut all the tubing, you're going to need to cut these springs. They've included 5 long springs here. These get inserted inside of the tubing. This is basically to cut down on bubbles inside the system. And also some clamps here to put around the ends of the tubing when they get attached to all these other products right here. Now on the left hand side here we have some tweezers. We also have some sticky back tape to stick on pieces of steel. Now this whole system right here, all of this gets attached to your case via magnets. Now the magnets they have included are extremely amazing. They really attach this very securely. Now if you have an aluminum case, you're going to need these steel stick-ons, because if you don't, of course, the magnets are not going to stick. If you have a steel case, it's not going to be a problem at all. Now on the left-hand side here, we've got some things that will enable you to connect this water block right here to your socket. Whether you have an AMD K7, K8, or Pentium 4, these products right here will allow you to do that. The first thing you need to do is mount this copper water block on top of your CPU. And in order to do that, of course, you're going to need to attach it to the socket or the motherboard. Now, if you have a K7, an AMD K7 board, well, you can use these little things right here. There's a center clip and 2 side handles. Now how do that work? Well, they just clip in on either side. Once you've got this done like so, you can go ahead then and just place the copper block on top of the CPU. Of course, the first thing you're going to need is to put some thermal compound on your CPU and slip the CPU into the socket, and then go ahead and just push it down like so, clip it into place, and you've installed this particular one. Installation of the water block onto the socket is a little different for the AMD K8 and the Pentium 4. You can see here I've got all kinds of different brackets, insulators, nuts, and screws. Let me now show you how that works. For the K8 and the new Socket 462 boards, a lot of them have holes right through the board so you can install this. And also, of course, the Pentium 4, you need to do it this way. First thing you need to lay down is a black H insulator. Now, there are pre-cut holes in this, and depending on how they meet and how they go through the motherboard, well, you're going to punch them out according to that. Next, you need to then place this H metal backplate on top of here. Once you've done that, then just go ahead and push the screws all the way through. Just to illustrate how this works, I'm using an AMD Socket 462. This is a new motherboard that has those 4 holes. Of course, now you can see the 4 screws protruding right up through the board. Examine your motherboard first, though, because you might have to use these rubber washers to protect the board when you drop the nuts down over these 4 screws. Next, install your CPU and apply some thermal compound. Then carefully place the water block on top. Then go ahead and fit this H metal plate down through those screws. Now once you've done that, you want to take these nuts and tighten them over the screws. Please keep in mind what I have shown you here is really a general illustration of how this works. Refer to the manual to get exact installations upon how this is installed on your particular motherboard. The next thing you will need to do is install the pump, the radiator, and the backup receiver. And the backup receiver goes to the very back top of the case, and the pump and the radiator goes inside of your case. Now if you're using a steel case, you can use these magnets. Attach the magnets to the case first, then go ahead and attach the different products to the magnets. Now if you have an aluminum case, you're going to need these 3 metal strips, and they get attached via these double-sided tape. attach the tape to the case first, then go ahead and attach these metal strips to the tape, then go ahead and stick these magnets onto the metal strips, and then go ahead and take the product and stick the product right in the magnets. Now magnets, you say, well, that's not going to hold. Well, let me just give you a little bit of demonstration here. I'll put the magnet on top of my hand, and I'll put another one at the bottom of my hand. And you can see here, the magnetism is so strong that it's holding the magnet in place. When installing the backup receiver, also remember to install this PCI backplate to one of the spare PCI slots in the back of the case. This is to allow the tubes to go from the inside of the case to the outside and then get connected to the backup receiver. And the pump as well as the radiator are installed inside of your case. Remember to connect the pump into any fan header on the motherboard, and the fan, which is on the rad, connect that into your CPU fan header. Now you need to cut the appropriate sizes to make all this fit, as well as inserting then the springs into those tubes. And then after that, of course, you're going to connect the tubes into the pump, into the rad, and also into the backup receiver. And here's an example of one that is completely cut. I've cut one to length here. I've also inserted the spring inside of the tube, and then just slip these clamps on over the tube before you start mounting all this tubing. The first tube to be connected is from the third pipe down on the pump right into the top part of the water block. The next tube goes from the bottom part of the water block to the top part of the radiator, and from the bottom part of the radiator into the bottom pipe on the water pump. The final two connections to be made here are at the very top of the water pump, so go from the top pipe out into the top of the backup receiver, which is in the back of your case, and also the second pipe down here from the water pump into the bottom of the backup receiver, which again is in the back of your case. Now you can see here how twisted these tubes are. Well, the springs inside of them help them from kinking, and you do not want to have tubes kinked because of course it will cut off the flow of water. The next thing you'll need to do is actually fill the backup receiver here full of water and coolant solution. You'll need to mix the included coolant with the water around a 1:10 ratio, but you want to do this outside the system. Then bring it back, remove the cap, pour it in, then go ahead, put the cap back in again, and make sure that when you turn the system on that this is going to be full, and check it around once or twice a year. And when everything is operational, you can see now when you turn the system on, there's actually a little light inside of the pump. And this is to show the water level, and it also looks kind of cool. And you can also appreciate how quiet a system like this is. Have a listen. Thermaltake has really packaged together an excellent overall product here. All the things are included for a water cooling rig, as well as a very easy to follow installation guide. It also performs very well, silent almost, as well as affordable. Now, what are the cooling results like on a product like this? Well, I'm using an Intel Pentium 4 3.06 GHz CPU at default voltage, that's 1.55. I have an idle temperature of 41 degrees C and a max load temperature of 46 degrees C. Now, if I overclock that CPU to 3.5 gigahertz at a voltage of 1.65, then I get a result of around 53 degrees Celsius at max load. That is an excellent result. To give you an idea, if you use a copper cooler with around 7,000 RPM fan on it, you're going to get around 69 degrees Celsius at max load. Big difference between 68, 69, and 53. Overall, this is a kick-ass product. Again, my name is Rodney Reynolds, and this has been another video review. Be sure to check back very soon. I will have a brand new one for you then. Also, be sure to pop into my website at www.3dgameman.com. And while you're there, you can go into the forums. If you haven't already registered, registration is completely free. Until the next time, take care.